Right now, 3 independent American grids are bracing for a catastrophic failure, and they all share the exact same cause. In the deserts of Nevada, across Virginia, and on the plains of Texas, an architectural metamorphosis is quietly taking place. We are witnessing the construction of the most power-hungry infrastructure in human history. For decades, the internet was marketed as a weightless realm. The cloud, an invisible sphere knowing no boundaries, but artificial intelligence has permanently shattered that illusion. Modern AI is built of concrete and steel, consuming electricity on a scale that pushes the American power grid to the brink of collapse. Historically, a data center was standardized. Traditional server racks hosting our emails and websites historically drew between 5 and 15 kilowatts of power. The entire industrial infrastructure, cooling, copper wiring, fire suppression, was meticulously engineered around that exact physical limit for over 2 decades. But then, everything changed. Generative AI requires parallel computing power that would simply melt conventional infrastructure. New AI-optimized server racks now demand anywhere from 30 kilowatts to well over 110 kilowatts. Effectively, a tenfold increase in power density occupying the exact same physical footprint. NVIDIA, the absolute monopolist of this shift, had to literally reinvent power supply. To operate this absurd density, NVIDIA is transitioning to 800-volt direct current, or 800 VDC systems. This radical pivot is mandatory to supply individual server racks with up to 1 megawatt of power. One rack will soon consume as much electricity as an entire city block. Meanwhile, this multiplies into a logistical nightmare. The tech giants are building digital industrial cities. A single new hyperscale campus is now connected to the grid at a scale of 1 gigawatt. That equals the constant power consumption of San Francisco. And they are planning dozens of these simultaneously. Yet, in their scaling frenzy, they forgot one unavoidable fact. Electricity does not magically come out of the wall. For the past 3 years, the narrative surrounding AI was completely dominated by the silicon chip. The tech world obsessed over TSMC foundries in Taiwan, treating semiconductor wafers as the only barrier to building a digital god. But then, the tech giants hit a wall. It wasn't made of silicon, it was made of copper wiring, aging transformers, and sheer bureaucratic inertia. Producing the chips is only half the battle. You actually have to turn them on. The critical bottleneck has officially shifted from Taiwan directly to the Rust Belt transformer stations of the United States. The American power grid, designed in the mid-20th century, simply cannot accommodate the explosive pace of AI scaling. Building a billion-dollar data center filled with NVIDIA hardware takes under 18 months. Yet, securing the electricity to actually run it takes significantly longer. The waiting times for an interconnection agreement to hook a large load facility to the public US power grid have stretched to well over 3 years. Effectively, the most advanced technology in human history is sitting in the dark, waiting on regulatory paperwork. According to a projection by Goldman Sachs Research, the power demand from US data centers is exploding. They forecast a jump from 31 gigawatts of baseline demand in 2025 to a massive 66 gigawatts by the end of 2027. The grid operators are completely unequipped to handle a load profile that more than doubles overnight. Meanwhile, the situation has deteriorated into a national emergency. In June of 2026, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, was forced to intervene via an emergency decree. Recognizing the impending collapse of interconnection queues, FERC mandated major regional grid operators to radically reform connection rules for large loads within a strict 60-day window. It was a desperate attempt to unblock the physical arteries of the tech economy. The illusion of infinite scaling was dead. Faced with a public power grid paralyzed by bureaucracy, the world's most valuable companies were not going to wait in line. Because the public grid was blocked, big tech resorted to extreme, unprecedented measures. They began actively bypassing the infrastructure that powers the rest of the nation, triggering a destabilizing ripple effect across regional energy markets. The epicenter is on the East Coast, specifically managed by PJM Interconnection. PJM is the largest grid operator in the United States, managing power for Northern Virginia, the undisputed data center capital of the world. PJM recently sounded a massive alarm, reporting billions of dollars in escalating costs within their capacity market. These multi-billion-dollar surges were traced directly back to the unmanaged boom of localized data center construction. Effectively, normal consumers are beginning to feel the financial weight of Silicon Valley's infrastructure panic. Meanwhile, a similar panic is spreading south. ERCOT, the independent grid operator for Texas, issued an incredibly stark projection. They calculate that the electrical load originating strictly from data centers will smash through the 40 gigawatt barrier by 2028. To put that into perspective, 40 gigawatts is enough power to comfortably run several European countries, and ERCOT must absorb that solely from server farms within a single state. But then, tech giants took a radical step. Realizing neither PJM nor ERCOT could build transmission lines fast enough, companies deployed behind-the-meter tactics. They started buying the power plants themselves. Oracle is designing data centers paired with localized natural gas plants. Amazon and Microsoft are signing direct deals with nuclear power facilities and investing heavily in small modular reactors, or SMRs. Yet, this creates a deeply troubling paradox. By going off-grid, trillion-dollar corporations are hoarding the cleanest, most reliable baseload generation. They are leaving overburdened public grids to deal with older, dirtier power sources. This isn't just straining the grid, it is fracturing it into a two-tiered energy system. As the physical infrastructure of artificial intelligence splinters the American power grid, the financial implications are beginning to catch up. For years, tech valuations were insulated by the belief that software margins were infinite. But generative AI is not traditional software. Every single prompt requires a massive physical exertion of energy. Suddenly, Wall Street investors are doing the math. The cost of operating this gigantic infrastructure threatens the fundamental business models of the companies building it. When analyzing the total US grid, the percentage of power consumed exclusively by data centers during the critical peak summer demand is skyrocketing. It is projected to surge from 4.1% in 2025 to a staggering 8.5% by 2027. Effectively, nearly 1/10 of the absolute maximum power the United States can generate during a heatwave will be dedicated solely to keeping servers online. This sheer volume of consumption is forcing a radical shift in how the industry measures success. For decades, data center operators relied on PUE, or power usage effectiveness, tracking cooling efficiency. But then, the extreme power density of modern GPUs rendered PUE largely irrelevant. Today, the industry is frantically adopting a new metric, tokens per watt. Because electricity prices are the dominant variable determining profitability, companies must calculate exactly how much compute output they get for every single watt they burn. Meanwhile, this desperation is triggering a massive price shock. In capacity auctions held by PJM Interconnection, massive load requests from hyperscalers are driving clearing prices to unprecedented historical highs. Tech companies are being forced to outbid entire municipalities just to secure electricity years in the future. To justify these astronomical costs, AI services will have to generate unimaginable sustained revenues just to cover utility bills. The market is waking up to the fact that the cost of intelligence is tied directly to the cost of electricity. And as those clearing prices hit historic highs, tech profit margins are placed under unsustainable pressure, sending volatility rippling through global markets. Ultimately, the crisis facing the artificial intelligence industry forces a deeply sobering question. Is the greatest digital revolution of our era going to be throttled not by a lack of visionary software, but by the stubborn, archaic laws of physics? The grand ambition to build an artificial brain is dangerously close to failing because of the simplest commodities of the industrial age: copper, water, and electricity. This tension is vividly illustrated by the copper dilemma. When NVIDIA designed its transition to 800 VDC power, it was a desperate move to drastically reduce the sheer volume of copper required. In a megawatt-scale data center, traditional low-voltage architecture would require copper cables so heavy that the physical weight alone would collapse ceiling structures. By utilizing high-voltage direct current, the industry can slash dependence on a depleting global copper market by reducing transmission losses by up to 85%. But then you have to consider what happens when electricity is converted into compute power. It generates astonishing heat that has to go somewhere. The public obsession has focused on gigawatts, largely ignoring that AI infrastructure drains local water supplies. On a hot summer day, a single 100 megawatt AI data center can evaporate millions of liters of pristine, potable drinking water simply to keep servers from melting down. We are trading the fundamental building blocks of human survival for slightly faster language models. This brutal reality check has definitively ended the greatest marketing myth of the 21st century. The concept of the cloud is officially dead. The internet has finally lost its manufactured weightlessness. It is heavy, grounded, constructed from thousands of tons of reinforced concrete and heavy high-voltage transmission lines carving through our landscapes. Yet, perhaps this is the ultimate irony of the AI boom. We spent decades striving to upload our existence into the ether, and now the apex of digital intelligence is dragging us violently back down to earth. The future of human progress is no longer just about writing smarter algorithms. It is, once again, about who controls the raw, physical power to run them.